Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabolis. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today's guests are my friends and trusted business partners, Kris Brinker and Simon Turner of Ocean 5 Strategies. Welcome, my friends, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. I've been looking forward to this. We've been talking about it for a while. And for those who don't know, we've collaborated several times on events before. And every single time I'm more and more encouraged by your respective expertise and sharing you with my network. So I'm so happy to have you both on the show today. For many that might not have gotten a glimpse at what you guys do and who you are, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit of both of your backgrounds and what Ocean 5 Strategies does for the government contracting community.
Well, I can start. I'll talk about me. You can talk about you. So Ocean 5 is two companies that's brought together. My background in the past, I worked for about 16 years for a government contractor that was a creative agency and marketing. And so that's my personal background that I bring to the table. I've been in a corporate setting for many years, and Simon and I partnered together and brought our agencies together, and I'll let him talk about him.
Sure. So thanks. Quick overview of Ocean 5. So we're a growth agency, and we focus on providing support to government contractors. And the two companies that Kris talks about is bringing together my original company, which is a management consulting firm, and Kris's company, which is a marketing agency. And so we bring a fairly unique perspective to it because it's not just about the marketing. It's really about driving growth. That's the way we think about it. If it's not delivering top line revenue, bottom line profitability to our clients, then why are we doing it? But marketing is the tool that we use to actually make that happen. From a personal background perspective, I've got a strong engineering background, and then more years than I care to remember, working in manufacturing, first doing new product development introductions. I kind of bounced around a little bit. I did some work so I was based in Europe. I grew up in the UK. Did some work in the Asia Pacific Rim before relocating to the US in 2000. And so I was recruited to head up sales and marketing for a company out in Denver, which was great fun, by the way. Learned to ski, sidebar. But when I left that company and established Ocean 5, or its earlier derivation, we really started to focus in on the government contracting space. So now I'm very happy that we're able to do the work that we do and have an impact on this very unique environment, which is right around us. We're located here in the DC metro area. And so, we're surrounded by kind of all of our government contracting friends. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. And I like how you talked about the fact that your focus behind the way that you assist government contractors is the focus on growth. And that's near and dear to me as well. And so I'm glad that we can start there, because I think it's a great way to get in to the conversation that we chatted about having today. And so I know that you guys do a lot across the board, but from an entry level, what is the most common problem that you are solving for government contractors?
I'll take that one. So it's interesting, because if you'd have asked me that question 12 months ago, I would have said poor quality websites. Everyone has one. There's a number out there that are fundamentally weak, both from a technical standpoint and a usability standpoint. But what's happened in the last 12 months is that there's been this emergence of messaging being the number one issue. And so that shift is interesting. But I think it's also a recognition amongst the government contractors that they've got a problem. So number one is they are not necessarily explaining what they do to the people that they're trying to target. And we'll come back to that in a second. And secondarily, they're having all kinds of challenges showing that they are different from other people that do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so this differentiation is a big issue. So going back to my first point, explaining what we do. Well, there's three components to that, right? So the first one is who are you messaging for? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so we've actually developed a program where we look at these. It's in a workshop format, which is kind of nice because it has a beginning and an end. But right. the things that we look at is which agencies are you targeting? So big picture, which agencies are you targeting? Then we get down to the personas that you're trying to message, and then looking at the other people that you're trying to influence, because increasingly we're finding that it's not just who you're targeting from a customer standpoint. It's broader than that. So mm-hmm. within the federal government, you've got end users and you've got the procurement functions, mm-hmm. different messages, right? Then you look at how you fulfill those contracts. You got to attract people. So it's getting new employees. Then depending on the size of the company, it's building relationships with teaming partners. So now you've got another target audience. Yeah. And so all of these have to come together under this banner of messaging. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the second thing is, can you explain what you do? So can you describe your products and services in a way that people can understand? Mm-hmm. Right. So number one is who. Number two is what do you do? Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is, have you really taken a good look at your competition? Because differentiation is differentiation from your competition, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of logical, but you kind of have to say it out loud. Mm-hmm. And so we're finding that if you look at these three things in conjunction with each other, there's sort of a picture that emerges, and then you come out with your messaging, which is corporate level messaging to the sector, messaging to the persona, and can you explain what you're doing from a products and service perspective? And there's an acid test, right? There's a really simple test that people can do. Go and look at your own website and ask yourself, if I didn't know what we do, could I figure it out in less than 5 seconds, right? And if the answer is no, then you've got a problem, right?
Right.
So pretty easy acid test right there. And then the second thing that you should do is go and look at your competitors' websites and see whether or not you're saying exactly the same thing. And the one that I like to quote is we deal with a lot of technology companies. They're involved in, let's say, cloud solutions. Mm-hmm. So saying that we are the best at cloud solutions, well, guess what all the other cloud solutions people say, right?
Right.
So go look, right? I mean, this is not hard. It's not magic. I mean, just take a look, look in the mirror, ask yourself, can people understand what I do in less than 5 seconds? Are we saying something different from our competition? If the answer is no to either of those questions, you need to give Kris a call, like tomorrow, right? Just check in with her and she'll talk you through it. But that's the biggest problem we're seeing. Messaging is kind of number one at this point in time. And it's critical because it flows through everything that you do. Yep. So once you've got your messaging, what do you do with it? Well, you have to update your website, update your sales literature, train your business development team on the messaging so that it's consistent throughout everything that you do. Yep. Because if it isn't, you're going to confuse your target audience, right? Mm-hmm. If your website says something different to your BD team, they're going to kind of go, I'm not really sure about this story. And that actually causes them to just slow up and, in the worst case, do absolutely nothing and go to somebody else that's got more consistent messaging. So,
right. Yeah. I see that. I mean, we see it in our own industry, obviously, from a support services and not as a government contractor. But it is important because not only for market research purposes, with learning about who you're competing against, you got to know what your differentiators are. And I love the fact that you coach them through that. And there's so many components to it that doesn't just include what people think of as just branding. It incorporates having the business development team understand how to market consistently throughout, that's important, because if everyone's saying something different, and it's not resonating back to the website, to your point, then that can be that inconsistency can cause some people to lack confidence in what you do. And so that's wonderful. I like how you pointed that out. So that leads us to the next question. And I think that this is something that I've heard you elaborate on before, but I think a lot of people will appreciate your perspective on this. Misconceptions. What is one of the biggest misconceptions you will hear from government contractors?
I'll take that one because I'm talking to people all the time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest misconception that I hear is that an investment in a professional company website and search engine optimization is unimportant. I think what I hear the most from government contractors is they believe that federal government doesn't use search engines or look at their websites, so the website doesn't matter. They sort of are not thinking that you're not selling to the federal government, you're selling to people. And guess what people do? They use the internet. And actually there's some market research that is definitely contrary to what they believe. Not familiar if everybody's familiar with Market Connections. They're a highly reputable research company in the government space, but federal and SLED. And they do a survey, and their reports year after year are reporting that 82% of government decision makers actually rank the GovCon websites and search engine results as the two most used resources for research and decision making. So, that is, and they've got a whole raft of other statistics that are just proving how much the government decision makers are looking at the website, and remembering again that it's not just the government decision makers, but teaming partners, potential employees. And I was talking actually to Dottie Romo, who's a former acquisition specialist and contracting officer. And she told me the story that I think really inspired a lot of why we decided to focus so heavily on GovCon, is that, as a contracting officer, she had to go do research and prove that she could find 2 or more small businesses that would be capable of performing the requirement that she was researching. And she couldn't. She searched, used the internet, used Google, and so what winds up happening is that what could have been set aside dollars for a small business was released from set aside status requirement. And small businesses can lose out just by not having a search engine optimized website.
That's impactful.
Yes. And, are your teaming partners finding you, or what do they think about you? They're searching the internet, and potential employees, which is probably one of the biggest problems that we're hearing, is top talent. And Teresa, we were in a panel discussion with you guys at Parabolis, and here I'll call out my peeps. Mike Duvall from Foster Thomas, he's in the HR world, and he was really emphatic that prospective employees make decisions about where they want to work based on the quality of the website. And if they go to the website and go like, I don't think so, they're going to go to your competitor. And your director of operations, Evan, he made the point that lenders include a link to the loan application, the loan applicant's website, right, as part of their standard procedure. So ultimately, everybody's looking at your website, and what they find really does matter.
Right. If the arrows aren't pointing back to where you need them to be, then it could affect on a lot of different levels. And I mean, we know how employment is these days. So if that's going to affect whether or not a quality candidate is going to come in for that interview, I mean, how do you prepare for an interview, right? You look at the website, you remember things from there that'll be things that you can input into that interview process. And so I think that's a great point to make. And things are changing, not just in this last year so much and how we work differently, but COVID affected a lot of what we do, and especially from a marketing and branding perspective. Can you guys talk about how marketing, especially to the government, has changed since COVID?
Sure. So probably the number one thing is everybody now knows how to use Zoom, right?
Well, not everybody. I still get on calls sometimes where they're like, can't figure out how my camera turns on, but
that transition, I mean, that was huge, right? I mean, people went from one day to the next from, oh, we're going to go and see all of our government contractors. We're going to have, our government contacts. We're going to meet with them. We're going to conferences to, no, you're not, right? I mean, that just happened in one day. It just turned. And so, you know, why I jokingly say everybody knows how to use Zoom. I mean, everybody now is very familiar with whatever it is, whatever video tool you use, whether it's Teams or Zoom or whatever. But I think what happened is that the use of technology for communication was already happening. That trend was very, very clearly in place. But I think that COVID just accelerated it like crazy. And it caused a change, which I think is not going to reverse itself, right? I don't think that people are going to go back to having one-on-one meetings when it's perfectly acceptable to just jump on a Zoom or have it. Interestingly, we're not even doing phone calls anymore, right? So everything's a video conference.
Yeah.
And I think that trend is going to continue. So if you believe everything that Meta's telling us, the metaverse is going to have us meeting in person across the world and all the rest of it. But, you know, as we can sort of smile at it now, but tomorrow's technology is going to be commonplace at some point in the future, right? It's just commonplace. So I don't see that this is going to change. What I do see is that there is a resurgence of in-person meetings. So conferences are coming back, trade shows are coming back, networking events, all these things are coming back. And people are desperate for contact. I mean, you remember the first days where we came out of that isolation, everybody wanted to human contact, fantastic, right?
Yep.
But I still think that those are going to be in parallel with this video conferencing communication. Can you imagine having a meeting where you got to drive downtown and it takes 3 hours out of your day when 15 minutes on a Zoom conference gets the job done?
Yep.
Right? You can't. Relationships are important, particularly in the government contracting space with the federal government. So use the time that you have in front of people wisely and use it to build relationships. Get all the pragmatic stuff done using whatever efficient tools you can use. So that to me was a fundamental change. When we saw the COVID veil fall, we interestingly had a number of companies reach out to us to talk about how they accelerate their digital transformation. So digital transformation is an interesting term. Nobody knows what the definition is. But it's whatever it means sensible for your company. But part of it was, how do we communicate with the people when we can't go there? Well, a lot of the answer was upgrade your website and the tools and the messaging and the content that you put into it. Hence my comment a year ago, I'd have probably given you a different answer as to what was important. So the people that have been through that iteration, I think, have put their company in a stronger position for whatever comes next, because whatever new technology is adopted for communication, all that's happening is that people just assume that the legacy stuff is good. So if you're sat there with a poor website, well, you're now not 2 iterations behind, you're 3, 4, 5 iterations behind. So I think that's how to change. The other thing, this isn't entirely related to COVID, but somewhat, is that you've also got to look at the demographic of the people who are in authoritative positions within the federal government. So millennials now hold those positions.
Yep.
And one of the things that you can absolutely say about millennials is they understand technology and they simply expect it to work. It's not a question. It's just supposed to work, right? Of course it works. And so I think again, if you are looking at anything technology related or communications related, you're going to need to become good at using that technology. You're going to need to up your game on anything online, because the minimum expectation of the audience that you are going to be serving from now and into the future is just going to expect it. Right. So COVID had an interesting impact, and accelerated the use of technology, frankly, in
absolutely
from perspective.
And it allows us to your point as well, be in many different places on the same day without having to hop on an airplane. And you can't get into that many spaces in the course of one business day by hopping on a plane. So it's allowed us to do business more often, which is what all Americans are looking for, right? Put more hours into that work day. Right. We love that. So it has definitely created that environment for us too. So that's awesome. I mean, I love all of this insight. We could talk about this all day because we didn't even scratch the surface for what we've talked about, in the past and panel discussions that we've been involved in together. So we definitely have room to bring you guys back so that we can expand, because I think this is just really surface level, that there's a lot that people need to know, and especially when it pertains to when it's a good time to start engaging with services like yours and that type of thing. But like I said, we'll definitely get to that in the future, in the near future for sure, because now that it's the beginning of the fiscal year, I think now is the time for people to be thinking about that, especially if it is in the cards for them to really, if they've listened to you and they take a look at their website and in 5 seconds they can't figure it out, then hopefully your door will be ringing off, your phone will be ringing off the hook and then barging through your door for help, because I highly recommend it for sure. But given the fact that we're allowed to get out and be around each other now, right, face to face, I know that you guys have some upcoming events that we'd like you to tell our network about. Kris, if you can expand, you and I get to see each other a lot, thankfully, and I'm grateful for that. But you've got some exciting events ahead.
I do, and they involve you as well, which I'm super happy about. Probably the biggest thing, the most exciting one, is Ocean 5 is going to be co-hosting a save the date for B2G GovCon 22. So we're going to be talking about these topics and going deeper into some other topics that directly relate to the theme, which is winning profitably. So government contractors that are really looking for scalable, sustainable growth, definitely we'll be talking about a lot of different things. We've got a great lineup of panelists from federal government, large corporations, large contractors, and from industry. Then we're going to have a series of roundtable discussions from a lot of the industry experts, adding value, pricing, sales and marketing, improving PWin, and you will be our panel moderator, which is going to be great. We're looking forward to that. And all of this is going to wrap up then into a happy hour. This is all with the Tower Club. And the title again is B2G GovCon. And we actually have a website if you want to look, b2ggovcon.com.
We'll share that as well.
Yeah, and the details will be up there. And if people want to follow me around, then you can also find me at the GMARQ Gain Conference on October 18th. And I'll also be at Elevate on November 3rd. I'll be there with Shirley Collier. So that'll be a lot of fun. I love running into people and meeting everybody in person. So that's where you'll find me.
Awesome. I love it. And like I said, we'll share the website for the B2G event that I'll also be at to make sure that our network has access to that. So if you follow me on LinkedIn or Parabolis on LinkedIn, we will share the registration information for that so that can be there. I'm sure you all have links to it as well, or will on your website as well, which is scrolling beneath us there. As always, I always like to close out with some final thoughts that include words of advice, sage wisdom from our experts. So I'm going to let you guys have the last word and share some words of advice, tips, best habits, anything that you can lend to our group right now. That'd be great.
Okay, well, I'll take tip number one then. So it sort of builds on this concept of go look at your own website and ask yourself, can people understand what we do in less than 5 seconds? The other twist is, does your website actually display in less than 5 seconds? Right?
Yeah.
That's a common challenge, and also look it up on a cell phone, right? Because increasingly people are using mobile devices to actually look at your website. So, for me, it's like, just go check out, take a look, right? It's not hard. Just take a look and figure out yourself, what are the issues that you might be facing? Have you got the right messaging? Does your website actually come up and display? So that's my tip for the day.
Awesome.
I'll follow up. I'm just going to reiterate. I mean, I honestly can't say enough about messaging. How you say who you are and who you're talking to. Website, LinkedIn, make sure it's consistent. And if you go on and you look at your competitors and you can't tell the difference between you and your competitors, then you probably need some help, and feel free to give me a call.
Awesome. I'm encouraging everyone to, I think from a consultative perspective, you guys are among the best in any industry that I've ever worked with. And so I appreciate you being here. I'm definitely going to have you back again, because like I said, we didn't even get to scratch the surface to what I know that the depth of this conversation can go. So I sincerely appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time. And I'm going to get you guys scheduled to come back again, because I think it's extremely important and valuable to our network to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. And as always, we are so grateful for the support of our community and encourage you all to stay tuned, as we have some really great guests in the lineup ahead as well. As fiscal year 23 kicks off, we are wishing you all continued success in the year ahead. We are here for you and would love your feedback on any content that you'd like to see. So please reach out to me. I'm Teresa Moon, and thank you for being here on Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Take care until next time.